Welcome back. These are the top 15 upcoming VR games you need on your radar, from intense shooters to mind-bending adventures. Stick around because the top 3 are absolute must-plays. Let's jump in. EXD Extra Dimensional drops you into a reality that keeps rewriting itself. One moment you're sprinting through a sterile sci-fi corridor. The next, the walls bend, gravity flips, and the room becomes something totally alien. In VR, that feeling hits different because you're not just watching the world glitch, you're standing inside it. Combat is fast and reactive, with enemies that punish hesitation and arenas that force you to move, peek, and think on your feet. The best part? Every new zone feels like a fresh, what the heck is this place moment. If you want a VR game that leans hard into weird, stylish, mind-bending sci-fi, EXD Extra Dimensional is one to keep on your radar. The Boys. Trigger warning drops you into a chaotic, darkly funny VR shooter where nothing feels heroic. It feels messy, brutal, and totally out of control in the best way. In VR, the action is right in your face. You're ducking behind cover, snapping quick shots, and reacting to threats before they overwhelm you. What makes it exciting is the vibe. It's not trying to be a clean, polished superhero fantasy. It leans into that twisted The Boys energy, where things escalate fast, and the situation always feels one step away from disaster. The encounters push you to stay aggressive, keep moving, and improvise when the plan falls apart. And if the game nails its tone, it could be one of those VR shooters that's not just fun to play, it's fun to watch. If you want a 2026 VR release with big franchise hype and pure chaos, The Boys, trigger warning, should be near the top of your list. Catana. Red Flowers feels like stepping into a stylized action world where every movement matters, and every encounter looks like it could turn deadly in a second. In VR, the combat hits harder because you're not pressing buttons for cool sword stuff. You're doing it up close with real timing and real pressure. What makes it stand out is the vibe. It's intense, cinematic, and a little mysterious, like you're walking through a story told in flashes. Steel, silence, and sudden danger. You're reading enemy behavior, committing to strikes, and making quick choices when the fight gets messy. When it clicks, it feels smooth and powerful, like you're controlling a perfectly choreographed scene. And that Red Flowers mood? It gives the whole thing a signature identity, stylish, sharp, and a bit unsettling. If you want a 2026 VR game that looks different from the usual shooters and leans into pure melee energy, Catana, Red Flowers is one you should keep on your radar. Wrath. Aeon of Ruin. VR feels like stepping into a brutal, old-school nightmare. Dark fantasy, twisted corridors, and enemies that don't wait for you to get comfortable. In VR, that classic 90s shooter energy hits harder because you're not aiming at a screen, you're turning corners with your own body. Combat is fast and aggressive. Chunky weapons, satisfying impacts, and fights that push you to stay moving. The atmosphere is thick too. Shadows, distant noises, and that constant something's hunting me feeling while you explore. If you miss gritty retro FPS vibes and want them in full VR, Wrath Aeon of Ruin VR is a serious 2026 must-watch. Fresh Tracks VR is the kind of game that turns VR into pure rhythm and movement. You're sliding forward on a track, reacting to the beat in real time, dodging obstacles, reaching for targets, and staying in sync like you're inside a fast-paced music video. What makes it addictive is how quickly you start chasing perfection. The flow speeds up, your reactions sharpen, and suddenly you're doing one more run just to nail that clean, flawless streak. It's easy to pick up, but it can get surprisingly intense when the pace ramps up. Guardians Planetfall drops you onto a hostile alien world where survival is the whole mission. You land, gear up fast, and push deeper, because every second you hesitate is another chance for the planet to punish you. What makes it stand out is the mix of action and progression. You're fighting through threats, grabbing upgrades, and building a run that feels stronger the longer you stay alive. In VR, that tension hits harder, scanning the terrain, hearing movement nearby, and making split-second choices when everything goes sideways. If you want a sci-fi VR adventure that feels relentless and rewarding, Guardians Planetfall is one to watch. Sol Protocol drops you into a mysterious sci-fi facility where every hallway feels like a test you didn't agree to take. In VR, that tension is real. You're leaning around corners, checking doors, and reacting to threats the second they move. What makes it stand out is the mix of atmosphere and pressure. You're scavenging for resources, learning the layout, and adapting on the fly as the situation escalates. The pacing keeps you on edge, but it never feels random. It feels like the game is daring you to stay calm and think. If you want a VR experience that's tense, immersive, and seriously suspenseful, Soul Protocol should be on your 2026 radar. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Empire City puts you right in the middle of a TMNT-style brawl. Fast, up close, and full of that classic street chaos energy. In VR, every punch feels personal, every dodge matters, and you're constantly scanning for the next threat rushing in. What makes it exciting is the mix of action and attitude. You're fighting through gangs, moving across iconic city spaces, and chaining hits like you're inside a Saturday morning fight scene, but with your own hands doing the work. The pace stays aggressive, the encounters feel chunky, and the whole vibe screams turtle power. If you want a VR game that's pure arcade-style combat with a big franchise flavor, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Empire City is one to watch in 2026. Titan Isles feels like a huge adventure waiting to happen. Massive creatures, wild landscapes, and that I shouldn't be here, but I am kind of tension. In VR, exploring these islands hits different because every cliff, ruin, and shadowy path feels close and real. What stands out is the sense of scale. When something big moves in the distance, you feel it, and it turns simple exploration into a constant risk-reward choice. Push forward for better loot and progress, or play it safe and survive. If you want an immersive VR world with giant threats and epic vibes, Titan Isles is one to keep on your radar. The Amusement throws you into a creepy theme park where the smiles feel fake and every corner feels like a trap. In VR, that's terrifying in the best way because you're not watching it happen. You're the one stepping forward, reaching for doors, and hearing sounds that shouldn't be there. What makes it work is the slow psychological pressure. The park looks playful on the surface, but the deeper you go, the more it twists into something wrong. You're exploring, solving what's really going on, and trying to stay calm when the atmosphere starts messing with your head. If you want a horror-leaning VR experience that's all about tension, dread, and don't look behind you vibes, The Amusement belongs on your 2026 list. Transmission. Shortwave drops you into a tense sci-fi mystery where information is your weapon and every signal could be a warning or a trap. In VR, it feels like you're inside the control room, leaning in, tuning frequencies, and piecing together what's happening from fragments that don't want to be found. What makes it addictive is the atmosphere and the sense of discovery. You're hunting for broadcasts, decoding clues, and following a trail that gets darker the more you understand. It's not about non-stop shooting. It's about suspense, curiosity, and that constant feeling that something is listening back. If you love eerie, story-driven VR with a found signals vibe, Transmission Shortwave is absolutely worth checking out. EXOSHOCK is a sci-fi shooter built around speed, pressure, and pure survival instincts. The moment you drop in, it's go time. Threats closing in, ammo counting down, and your aim needing to be sharp because the game doesn't give you breathing room. What makes it stand out is the punchy, arcade-like flow. You're dodging, snapping shots, and managing space like a skill test, not just spraying bullets. In VR, every reload and quick turn feels intense, and when you barely survive a wave, it hits like a real win. If you want a fast, aggressive VR shooter that feels like a challenge run every time, EXOSHOCK is one to watch for 2026. Star Trek Infection pulls you into a tense sci-fi crisis where every corridor feels like it could turn hostile in a heartbeat. In VR, it's pure immersion. You're scanning rooms, checking corners, and reacting fast when something goes wrong. What makes it stand out is the mix of atmosphere and urgency. You're dealing with a spreading threat, making quick decisions under pressure, and pushing forward even when the ship feels like it's fighting back. The pacing keeps you moving, but the tension stays high, because you never fully know what's waiting behind the next door. If you want a story-driven VR experience with classic Star Trek vibes and serious suspense, Star Trek Infection is a must-watch for 2026. Alliance Tales Battle for the Frontier feels like a classic sci-fi war story you can actually step into. You're dropped onto a hostile frontier, dealing with escalating threats, and making choices that push you deeper into conflict, not just watching the action, but living inside it. What makes it interesting is the scale and the campaign vibe. It's built around pushing forward, completing objectives, and surviving tougher encounters as the situation heats up. In VR, that can hit hard, scanning the battlefield, reacting to pressure, and feeling the tension when things start going sideways. If you want a VR-supported sci-fi adventure that mixes combat, progression, and that frontline survival feeling, Alliance Tales: Battle for the Frontier is one to keep on your radar for 2026. Aces of Thunder is all about raw aerial combat, dogfights that feel intense because you're in the cockpit, not just watching the sky. In VR, every head turn matters. You're tracking enemies, checking your wings, and lining up shots in real time. What makes it special is the immersion. The planes feel heavy, the speed feels real, and those split-second decisions, climb, dive, commit, actually get your heart going. When you finally lock in a clean burst and down a target, it feels earned. If you want a must-watch 2026 VR flight combat game, Aces of Thunder belongs near the top.